Welcome to the Funding Application Regional Training. For today's session, we will provide updates to the FY21 funding applications, new guidance, and clarified directions for common errors found in applications. Fiscal Year 21 updates and common mistakes. There have been several changes made to the funding applications this year. Some of the biggest changes you will notice is that districts are required to provide comprehensive early intervening service plans with IDEA. This is an additional page to the CEIS budget and description. Title III now will provide the non-public amounts for equitable service on the budget details page, as well as each non-public amount on the non-public service page. Districts will no longer need to go to a separate spreadsheet to retrieve this information. Title IV-A has additional items in the application for the Federal Comprehensive State Progress Report that ODE must submit annually. There will be a new funding application provided in the consolidation grant. It will be added in early July. We will go over its allowable use and later in this presentation. One of the common errors we find is how to calculate FTEs. We will review what we are asking for when we ask the district's FTE, as well as how to calculate FTE for staff that are not full-time. And of course, we understand that you will have many questions about ESSER. We will answer those questions during this presentation as well. The expanding opportunities for each child grant will now be provided as a formula grant to districts. The districts, for some, will from the state 3% set aside for district student services. Due to preparations for ESSER, we will not be able to provide this grant until early July. Our developers have been very busy this spring. The grant is the same grant that has been available as a competitive grant in the past. It can be used by career pathways, work-based learning, personalized learning opportunities, APIB assessments, for example. The grant available for grades K through 12. Guidance for this will be available in the next few weeks. Brian Hunecke will be the director for this grant out of the Office of Innovation and Improvement. In IDEA, there are two changes. Districts that are required to provide comprehensive coordinated early intervening services and set aside 15% of their IDE allocation, there will be an additional page they must complete provided the CCEIS budget and budget narrative. Only districts that are required to provide CCEIS will complete this page. The maintenance of fiscal support, there will be an error now if the district does not budget the amount from their previous MOE. This will be your FY19 MOE amount. If the district believes that there is a cost to be less, that they will need to submit the application with the MOE amount from FY19 and request approval from the Office of Exceptional Children to enter a lower amount based on changes to circumstances in the district. We can reduce the amount on the first revision for the district with a history log note explaining why it is lower in the approval from the lower amount. This will address the requirement that the state is allowing to provide IDEA funds to the district without assurances that they have budgeted at least 100% from state and local funds for special education services in the previous year. The ESSER fund was released on May 25th. The substantially approved date was March 13th, 2020. The grant is available in the FY21 funding application. There will be no FER for fiscal year 20. Districts Districts will provide an FAR for FY21 that will cover costs from March 13th, 2020 to June 30th, 2021. There is carryover with the funds. Districts must spend all their funds by September 30th, 2022. Currently, the non-public equitable service portion is under consideration between ESSER law and the U.S. Department of Education guidance. There are two ways that districts are required to calculate equitable services. 1, low income, or 2, ADM. This is currently in consideration at the U.S. Department of Education, and we will let districts know when the decision has been made. Until that time, districts are required to budget whichever method is higher amount, but spend the lowest amount for equitable services with non-publics. All districts must consult with their non-publics so that they know what the different amounts could be and also discuss how they could be spending their funds. If they need assistance with determining the amount, please contact your federal consultant and they will assist you. In most of the grants in the consolidated application, we ask how many FTEs will be paid with federal funds. The FTE stands for full-time equivalent staff member. If they work a full day every day for the work week, they are considered full-time. If they only work part of the day or part of the week, they are not full-time. You must determine what portion of the full-time position they represent. This is data that we are required to provide in a comprehensive state progress report card to the U.S. Department of Education. Sometimes you may have a person that works a full day for a full week, but they are not paid out of two different funds. They are considered split funded. You only report the portion of the salary that is paid from the fund for the FTE, tutors, after-school staff, summer school staff, part-time personnel will need to have their hours calculated for FTE. Sometimes you need to calculate FTE for staff members. However, they don't work the same hours or schedule as a full-time staff member. How do you calculate their FTE? You need to determine the percentage of work time for the week they work. To do this, you need to first determine which is the regular work week length for the staff member in a similar position compared to a work week of a staff member that does not work the full time. In this example, we are comparing a tutor's work week to a regular ed teacher's work week. The regular ed teacher's work week works 37.5 hours a week on paper. We know better. But the tutor is contracted to work 6 hours a week in an after-school tutor program. The tutor's FTE is 0.16 of the regular ed teacher's FTE. You do not have to provide FTEs for substitutes that are covering teacher absences or PD activities or teacher stipends for PD activities. We no longer collect data for that. There are several changes on the Title I set-asides page. First, however, we want to point out that there's a parent involvement amount for the non-public comes out of the total non-public allocation. So when you budget for your non-public equitable services, the amount on the top line is the total amount, while the second line shows the required parent involvement set-aside amount for the non-public. There is an error message this year for the non-public amount so that the budget and the parent engagement portion on the non-public line is on the budget. The total for the line should equal the amount on the top line. Governance has a 5% limit for the set-aside. The amount of the governance line must be the same as the governance amount on the budget row. These two must be the same. Set-asides are costs that will be expended in the district level for services at Title I buildings only. What is taken off the allocation on your set-asides page affects the amount available in the school budgets for the building budgets. Fiscal records must be available to show these funds were expended, as well as show that they were provided for Title I buildings only. Except for homeless set-aside, foster care set-aside, and parent engagement. Homeless and foster set-asides can be used for any student, regardless of their building designation, that is homeless or in foster care. Parent engagement funds must be set aside for parent involvement activities. The district can spend 10% for district level activities, but 90% must be spent at the buildings and building level activities. School expenditures must be available in fiscal records for building expenditures that Title I and must be aligned with rank order of buildings and school allocation amounts. All districts are required to set aside at least one PPA amount for homeless. In the text box below, you must provide a description of how the district plans on spending the funds. The amount on the set-aside page needs to be budgeted in the correct cell according to the description. Homeless set-aside funds also need to be evident in fiscal records to show the set-aside were expended. The district can revise this at any time as need for the homeless change. Remember that homeless funds can be spent for any homeless student regardless of their building or attendance. Otherwise, it is budgeted at the district level, so it can be spent on any homeless student even if they do not attend the Title I building in the district. Late in fiscal year 20, the consolidated application was enhanced to automatically recalculate non-public equitable services in instances of transfer. It is the responsibility of the district to ensure consultation with impacted non-public schools occur prior to any transfer. It is unallowable to transfer just the public portion or leave behind just the public service amount in any grant. When transfers occur, equitable service must be recalculated in both the grant that was transferred from and the grant into the funds were transferred. When paying for staffing, they could be hired by the district or provided through a third-party provider. Staff that is hired by the district and receive their payment from the district need to be budgeted in the 100s object code. If staff are hired through a third-party provider, such as an ESC, this means the school pays the provider, not the staff member, then it needs to be budgeted under contracted services, or the 400s object code. All staff, regardless if they are provided through a third-party provider or hired by the district, must be properly licensed for their assignment. The set-aside page and building eligibility page are two of the most common pages you will complete in the Title I application because these two pages drive the funding for the district and building. The set-aside pages provide the district initiatives and those costs that can be expended at the district level, except for parent involvement amount. The building eligibility page only determines which buildings are eligible, but also which buildings are priority in the district for services. When deciding about eligibility, a building can be targeted assistance if they have a free and reduced percentage of 35% or more, or higher than the district free and reduced lunch percentage. A building can be school-wide if their free and reduced lunch percentage is above 40%. There are alternative ways for buildings to become eligible, as well as those consist of rounding if the number is close, but not required here. Previously served when building was eligible for the previous year but dropped below. They can be served one additional year. just in case the number goes up again for the following year. The secondary buildings can be served based on poverty level from their elementary buildings, and this is called the feeder program. Finally, there is a school-wide waiver for buildings who are eligible for TA and have a C or higher in gap closure with the state report card. Once eligibility is determined, the district then rank orders the buildings by priority. This can be done by poverty-based or grade spans. The building eligibility determines which buildings will receive the higher PPA amount for their Title I services. It drives the building budgets for Title I. Let's talk about Title I PPA and building eligibility. The building eligibility page determines the rank order for the school allocation PPA amounts. Districts can rank buildings by poverty level or by grade spans according to how the district wants to prioritize services for buildings in their district. For example, a district may want to prioritize their services to buildings by their highest poverty level, or they can decide they want to prioritize service to specific grade spans in their district. Once a district sorts by grade span, they then order by poverty level within that grade span. Districts have this option unless they have a building who has a poverty level of 75%. Buildings with a 75% or higher poverty level must be ranked above grade span ranking. When calculating the PPA amount, the amount decreases as you move down the building rank order. A building below another building may be equal to, but cannot have a higher PPA amount than the building above them. We will talk more about this when we begin to work on Title I funding application. Navigation of the funding application. Title I, II, III, and IV all have new application reporting statements embedded in the budget details page. The statement is asking for districts to provide one specific strategy they are funding with a specific grant budget page to improve student achievement or build teacher capacity. This information will be used to help determine strategies that districts need research and evidence-based parameters around, as well as possible uses with the one plan or EdSteps. Can we create a drop-down box for strategies for districts to select that have more than one research parameters for implementation provided for districts? Example statement for Title I. Please briefly state one improvement strategy in 1 to 4 words that address the needs of the students who are most at risk and not meeting the state's challenging academic standards that are funded using Title I funds. This is an optional activity that will allow ODE to determine these strategies and the most used by organizations. Districts that modify the building eligibility page must provide the report used to make changes to the page. Districts are required to upload documents supporting changes made to the building eligibility page. Another upload function has been added to the set-asides page. If your district has 30% or more of the Title I budget on the district set-aside page, then districts must upload the District Managed Initiative form. This provides the reasoning for excess of the set-aside. The District Managed Initiative form is also located on the set-asides page. Remember, district set-aside funds may only be spent for buildings that receive Title I services. So even if it is in the district initiative set-aside amount, only Title I buildings in the district may benefit from these funds. All districts must select a methodology to demonstrate supplement, not supplant, under Title I. For all other federal funds, the old presumptions for supplement, not supplant, apply. With new guidance from U.S. Department of Education, districts have three options: the PPA methodology, a resource allocation methodology, or a methodology that the district uses that is a mixture of the two. Districts that consist of one building have all buildings school-wide Title I served, or grade spans that are all Title I served are not required to provide a methodology. A word of caution: even though these districts do not have a methodology, they still must use the funds to provide a supplemental program that is above what they are required to provide by law. The funds must be used to meet the intent and purpose of the grant. The Title II Budget Details page has an update to the FTE Calculation section. The Professional Development and Stipends line has been separated from the FTE, the substitutes in section. FTE Calculation will be the same as all other grants. Please report the dollar amount in this box provided that can be used for substitutes and stipends. This should also be reported in the text box. The Professional Development FTE and substitute stipends would align to the Professional Development Purpose Code on the main budget page. Title III pages have now been updated in the CCIP to interface with NPDS to reflect the non-public EL numbers and reported and verified by public school districts in NPDS. Budget details page has also been updated to align with the Title II and Title IV budget details page. Along with the change on the budget details page for equitable services, the district will also be able to find the equitable service amounts for each participating non-public on the non-public service page, along with the non-public EL numbers reported in the NPDS system. Additional changes for Title III on the budget details page include under Program of Instruction for ELs, district will identify the languages that are used in the different programs selected. The text box in the budget details page requesting the district's anticipated count for ESL bilingual teachers in 5 years will be mandatory and will not let you submit the application without completing. Districts need to estimate the number of additional teachers they will need in 5 years based on student trends in EL, not the number of teachers they currently have. Both changes were added to the CSPR reporting requirements. The 3 text boxes have been added to the Title IVA budget details page. Planning section. 1. ESSER requires LEAs to report the SEA on their Title IV program objectives and intended outcomes. We ask the district to describe the program objectives and intended outcomes in the first box. 2. In addition, ESSER requires LEAs to evaluate the effectiveness of programs and activities carried out under Title IVA. We ask the districts to now report on the effectiveness of the prior year's Title IVA program in the second box. ESSA also requires LEAs to describe any partnerships formed with institutions of higher education, businesses, nonprofit organizations, community-based organizations, or other public or private entities with a demonstrated record of success in implementing Title IVA activities. We ask the district to specify any partnerships within the third box. There are a few small changes in the Title IV-A box also. We clarified the Title IV-A amounts from the CCIP allocations should be included in the Title IV-A Budget Details Section 2 activities. Dollar amount boxes. Districts should be included allocated, reallocated, and transfers in minus transfers out in the dollar amount boxes. The reason is ESSER requires the LAA to specify dollar amounts for the current fiscal year. The additional and carryover allocation amounts are not for the current fiscal year. There is an accompanying warning validation that will help you ensure that you are budgeting the correct amount in the dollar amount boxes. Also in Title IV-A Budget Details page, Section 3 Budget Items, we have a non-public FTE box and the non-public purchase services to match the Title IV-A budget. There has been an increase in the districts receiving Rural Education Achievement Funds for this year. One reason is ODE's review of the state definition of rural. Ohio is evaluating its topology for Ohio schools. One difficulty was with small town designated districts. Previously, only districts with a topology of 1 or 2 were identified in rural under Ohio's state definition. For the FY21, we looked at small town districts that have a low population density to determine rural as well. We realize that there are many small town districts that are rural while over other small town districts are outside the urban center. Districts have a topology of 3 or 4 with a population density of 250 per square mile or less were also identified as rural districts. As Ohio continues to develop its updated topology, this criteria will be considered when identifying districts. We will have more about this at our fall conference. The rural low-income funds will be allocated in this consolidated application in early July once we receive the final list from the U.S. Department of Education. We are anticipating this by July 1st. Districts that are required to participate in the Comprehensive Coordinated Early Intervening Support Services Plan are required to complete a budget page. Budget details for the 15% set aside is Comprehensive Early Intervening Services. Only districts that are required to provide Comprehensive Early Intervening Services will be able to complete these pages. A new formula grant will be available this year is called the Expanding Opportunities for Each Child grant. In the past, this has been a competitive grant. This will be awarded through a formula funding this year. All district and schools will receive funding this year for this grant. The grant is to be provided to students with additional opportunities to the district that has not been able to provide in the past for student courses. Examples include advanced coursework such as AP courses, personalized learning opportunities, career pathways, credit recovery, or accelerated courses, test prep courses for AP or technical certification. The program can be for grades K through 12. The district will be required to prioritize the funding for buildings in the district. Priority and focus buildings must receive priority funding. Funds need to be expended at the building as buildings have been ranked ordered for them on this page. Any building that is skipped in the rank order must have an explanation. The district does not have to fund all buildings on this page. There will be guidance on release on this Friday or early next week. The funding application will be loaded in the consolidated application in early July. On behalf of the Office of Federal Programs and the Ohio Department of Education, thank you. Please be sure to call or email your consultant with any questions. We are here for you. Thank you.